All right, everyone. So it is October 18th and it is 11:52 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting of the Wakefield Youth Council into order. So first on our agenda, we need to take attendance. So I'm going to call down the roll. James.
Here.
Nathaniel.
Here.
Annabeth.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
William.
Here.
Michaela.
Here.
Ahmed said that he would be absent today. Madeline.
Here.
Maya.
Here.
Sophia.
Here.
Juliana.
Here.
Olivia.
Here.
And Vanessa said that she would be absent as well. And then Aaron.
Here.
So next on the agenda is public comment. So we do have some presenters with us today. So if you'd like, please state your name and address, and you will have, I believe, 3 minutes to present to us.
Okay, just move the microphone. So each of you introduce yourself and say your name and address.
My name is Maya Neal.
Your home address.
Yeah.
Oh, my name is Alexandra Stragowski and I live at 15 Elmcrest Road. We are the leaders of Environmental Club and we're here to talk to you guys about that today. And about the company that we're partnering with. Great. So what is our environmental club about? So our club gives students the opportunity to voice their opinions on the environment around us, and it gives us the opportunity to act on a local level. So we want to create like a safe space to voice our opinions. Our goal is to better the environment of the Wakefield community, open up more opportunity to Wakefield Memorial High Schoolers to participate in community service, and to leave a positive impact on the environment. So our long-term project is offering many volunteer opportunities, such as hosting multiple cleanups around the town, and we're planning a long-term project. So we have successfully partnered with a company called Treeplenish, and they've agreed to provide us with saplings that we can plant in the yards of Wakefield residents. And they have agreed to provide us with various resources and finances. So a little bit about Treeplenish. This is a student-run organization that specializes in empowering students to create a more sustainable and equitable future through community tree planting. This organization takes a look at schools' ecological footprints and plants trees throughout communities based on how much energy a school uses. Locals order saplings online, and when the planting day arrives, we will travel around town planting trees for those who have ordered them. And partnering with this organization contributes to our efforts in creating a more sustainable environment. So we have a projected timeline of how this would run out over the course of time. So from September to November, we will start event planning and sponsorships. And with Treeplenish's help, event dates are picked and sapling goals are set. For late December, we are preparing and event marketing. Marketing strategies are discussed, web pages are published, and sapling order forms are opened. January to March, event marketing begins, and students market their events to recruit community members and order saplings online. And then from March to May, the actual event is hosted. And this is where we go throughout the community and plant trees. So what we need in order to make this project beneficial to the Wakefield community specifically, we are looking to plant trees around town and possibly involve the community. However, in order to accomplish this, we would need their approval. And having your guys' support would be really beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So it seems that this would correlate strongly to our liaison to the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and also the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee. So we will be in touch with you further based on what you discussed. So thank you for coming today.
Yeah.
We have some really good ideas, and I'm very excited about this project, and I've already reached out based on your request to Dennis Fazio. So between the personal home planting and the town commitment. I think the youth council is a great place to start. So
I
thank
agree.
you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So are there any other members of the public wishing to speak today? So seeing none, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the October 4th meeting minutes. So I'm going to pass it over to Thomas.
All right, great. So the meeting on October 4th was went very well. I was called to order, attendance, no public comment, approved the minutes from the last meeting. And then we had a discussion about Town Day at the Common and what we would do if there was rain. We discussed what how we would adapt. I believe Town Day actually ended up being canceled, so we will not be present there, of course. And then we had an update from the Communications Outreach Subcommittee. The plan for active bystander training with the Wakefield Human Rights Commission is still in progress. And we also want to increase our social media presence. So we're going to do meet the member posts and just generally try to post more. We brought up ideas for the finance working group and applying for grants. Then we approved unanimously to actually apply for is it a state level cultural council grant? Local level grant to hopefully finance a project. We had an update from Ahmed Othman regarding the recent school committee meeting and the issues being raised over the Yonder program for cell phones at the middle school. There was some discussion about that. Bikeville is still open till the end of October. We talked about the Veterans Day cleanup and a little bit more about the active bystander training. And then Michaela brought up the idea of improving accessibility at playgrounds and how there are no ADA accessible playgrounds in Wakefield at the moment, which is something we're going to look further into. We determined the meeting date for now, and then we adjourned.
Thank you, Thomas. That was great. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
I motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I'm going to call down the roll. James?
Aye.
Nathaniel?
Yes.
Annabeth?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Thomas?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
Madeline?
Yes.
Maya?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
Juliana?
Yes.
Olivia?
Yes.
So that passes unanimously. So next on our agenda, we are having a presentation by Catherine on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey results that have recently come out. So Catherine.
All right. Thank you for inviting me to put on one of my other hats. And in my role as working in the Health and Human Services office, we have been collaborating with the Wakefield Public Schools since 2011 to conduct the Wakefield Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So most of you probably took this survey last spring. So the survey is administered through 7th through 12th graders. You do need parental consent to participate in the survey. It's a national survey developed by the Centers of Disease Control. And what we do is we partnership with the rest of the schools in the Middlesex League to administer the survey. So we have comparative data between our Wakefield and schools similar to us. And we've been doing that since 2019. We have an independent evaluator who looks at the data for us. So it's not us in Wakefield kind of going through the data. It's someone outside going through the data and putting it together for us. And we provide an FAQ page, which I can send all of you to kind of show some of the truths and myths, because sometimes people say, oh, well, don't students, not tell the truth on the survey, or what if they do they have an opportunity if they feel uncomfortable to skip questions? So we answer all those questions in that FAQ. But what you'll see is the data stays pretty consistent from year to year. So you can see that it is a good marker of some health indicators. So what it measures is it measures risk factors like substance use, self-harm, suicidal ideation, and also measures protective factors, like whether you have a trusted adult in the school, if you're getting enough sleep. So we're going to see some of the trends and data from this year. So this is our population. This is how students identified. So you see gender, sexual orientation, and race. You can see that our community is becoming more diverse. When we first did this in 2011, it was definitely more Caucasian community of students, and it's becoming more diverse. And then understanding our what our different students are experiencing when we're going to break this down in a moment. But we're going to start with the mental health of high schoolers. So the first on the graph on the left, and you can see that's self-harm. So how many students reporting hurting themselves on purpose? So that's 13% out of 100% of students reported hurting themselves on purpose this year. Developmentally, unfortunately, that is something that happens to students this age. But what you'll see is that the blue with the red bar is Wakefield High. And then above that, the ML stands for the Middlesex League average. So slightly below the Middlesex League average on that statistic. And then the one below that is students that experience depression. So that's two weeks in a row of experiencing sad or hopelessness. So that's kind of the just definition of having bout of depression. So understanding that 22%, that's a lot of students. It's a lot of students having a really difficult time and thinking about, what that means. How many homerooms is that? How many school buses full of students is that? So thinking about, it's a lot of students experiencing a difficult time. So making our educators and policymakers aware of this, making all of you aware of this is how we develop interventions and develop strategies to help our community become healthier. So this data is really important. And you can see it's come down significantly from the previous two surveys. And then the suicidal ideation numbers are, the top line is suicidal ideation, and then the bottom line on the graph on the right is suicide attempt. So something that we also are looking at. And then if we shift over to the Galvin, you can see that Galvin suicidal ideation has come down significantly, but still that's a lot of young people struggling, 11%. So if you think about that, like Mr. Collins, I'm even trying to think about how many classrooms that is, because it's about 500 students in the 7th and 8th grade. So it's a lot of young people contemplating and thinking about it. And then again, we're going to look at on the important behavioral health trends. 13% of Galvin students reported self-harm, and then 20% depression. And then really important to look at, and this gets back to some of the work that you all are doing with Human Rights Commission and some of the other works. The 38% of LGBTQ students considered attempting suicide versus 6% of heterosexual students. So we really want to make sure that behavioral health strategies are really focused on supporting those populations. And this is important data too, to think about what are your liaison groups and what are your subgroups where you're working with this. Would some of this data be important to bring back to them and for you to present to them? So something to think about. I'm actually thinking about like Olivia on with the police department and like Human Rights Commission and some of our other groups. And then the same thing with students of color reporting higher bouts of suicidal ideation. So another thing that we try to do is, this was the presentation that we did with the school committee. So it was myself and Mr. Tetrall and Mr. Kent, who oversees health and wellness, and then Mr. Robinson from the high school and Mr. Mullaney. So we talked about all the strategies that the schools are doing to try to address behavioral health. So you'll notice there are a lot more adjustment counselors in the Galvin than there were 6 or 7 years ago. Now there's one per grade. And the same thing at the high school, we didn't even have adjustment counselors 5 years ago. There were just guidance counselors. So now there's Miss Keogh and Miss Burns, people that you can go and talk to. So that's been a big this data helped drive some of that strategy. And there's new hires there are some special population programs. We do SOS screening. Does anyone remember doing that in 8th grade or 10th grade? Yeah, so that's the screening on signs of suicide. And then now the eighth graders, you guys now have the WIN block. So that's a new strategy. It's kind of looking at what people might need, and everyone has different needs. So kind of then Mr. Collins, how's that working out this year?
It's going well so far.
Good. Maybe you guys can give us an update on that. And then we have more health classes, increased teacher training. I know Mr. Collins did a training this summer around restorative practices. And we did some different things for teachers and faculty and what they need. And looking at what are those support systems we have in the community. So we have a support system that connects students and parents and community members to behavioral health counselors. We actually pay for that between the town and the schools because a lot of people need counselors. So we found that this program was necessary to shorten that gap of finding a counselor for people. So this is our substance use data. What do we notice here? Anyone have any thoughts on what you see?
Well, I see that it seems that the trends have been going down in the last 5 years across the board.
Yeah. Overall, substance use trends are coming down. And actually, if we'd gone back even more, some of the underage drinking was even much higher. So it's good to see that substance use rates are coming down, but it's still concerning. Yeah.
What I noticed is that the e-cigarette trends went down, but this year they actually went up. So I think that's something that we need to discuss. Obviously, in this day and age, e-cigarettes are becoming a lot more popular than regular cigarettes, and I think that's also because of like the general like thinking going around, the false general thinking that people are like, oh well, it's safer than cigarettes, but it actually does have a lot of what's the word? Can't think of the word, but it's very bad for your health. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, Michaela, and that's something that we can look at, that why the e-cigarettes and they're not, you can't even buy them in this area if you're under 21, and flavors are banned, but we're still seeing students getting flavored e-cigarettes. So how are they getting, that's something that, and I know you're our health liaison too, so that would be something.
Another thing to add about like the e-cigarettes usage, I want to say they're a little bit more accessible than the cigarettes because cigarettes you have to light them, but kids are just carrying around the e-cigarettes and like going to the bathrooms and stuff, and it's harder to get caught, almost to say. And even though they're banned from buying them, again, there's still a way that people are getting them from other people, and we need to like try to stop that as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think that that's really telling how still, even though they are illegal, it says I think that says 18% are still obtaining them through some illegal method to abuse these very dangerous substances. So I think that that's definitely something scary to look into, but important to address for the youth population.
Yeah, and maybe what we could do is have the youth action team come on and present some of their findings, because they actually did cleanups at some of the local parking lots and have like the wrappers and some of the, so they can kind of see that this is the trends we're seeing, and they've done some focus groups. Michaela, then.
I was gonna say, like, from my personal experience in school, I've had multiple instances where I've gone into the bathroom and there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids just having a smoking session with Juuls and e-cigarettes of all types. And it's like, I just want to go to the bathroom, like I don't want to feel uncomfortable thinking like, oh, I might get in trouble because like technically I'm with them in the same room. So I think it's really important in Wakefield Public Schools to to strengthen the consequences of e-cigarettes, and also educate kids more about how it can negatively affect your health.
Yeah, and I think that what you just said about feeling uncomfortable or unsafe when people are doing it in the bathrooms around you when you're just trying to mind your own business and follow the rules. I think that that's a really good point, because people that aren't necessarily involved with it still are impacted in some way by what these what this is happening, and we need to find a way to curb this and to guide people down like a positive route with this.
I noticed how it says 6% of students drove under the influence of marijuana and 3% under the influence of alcohol. That's just a very disheartening figure to hear.
Yeah, and that I think, and again, the youth action team did some data analysis, and that students did not see using marijuana as risky. But then this gets at the idea of policy change. So one of the things that they did about 4 or 5 years ago is they started working with the Department of Motor Vehicles, and they really educated them about the importance of including marijuana impaired education in driver's ed. So a bill was passed last year where and I actually saw them meeting with the board of directors of the Department of Motor Vehicles, where marijuana education is supposed to be part of driver's ed now. So that number has come down, but it's still, like you said, concerning. So these are things to, think about, but definitely we can ask the youth action team, and Maya maybe can kind of get a little more involved on.
I'd love to.
Yeah. But that uncomfortableness we've heard from lots of people about going to the bathroom. So all right, and then these are our Galvin numbers. So they've come down quite a bit especially since 2017. So one thing that's good to see is that Galvin students are one thing that in public health, we know that the more you present something as harmful, the less likely someone's going to be to use it. So back in 2017, you saw that the risk of harm perceptions were a lot lower. They were only 41%. And you can see the use numbers were higher. And then once we increased that perception of harm, the use numbers came down. So that's health educators, it's parents, it's lots of people coming together. Even though, has anyone seen the news flash or the bathroom buzz that the youth action team puts together? So things, education channels like that are as effective as well. And so these are some of the strategies that the schools and the health department have worked together to address substance use, but there's still, as you guys say, a long way to go. There's a diversion program at the high school if students get caught, but to kind of Maya's point, I don't think as many, Michaela's point, as many students that are actually doing it are getting caught. So it's how are they going to, and at this point they're addicted. So they need the interventions and the strategies to help them quit, because quitting nicotine is very difficult. We do a lot of trainings with school nurses, coaches, team captains, parent education, and then the youth action team does a lot of work. So these are the high school students and violence data. So online bullying versus in-school bullying. Does anyone have any comments or questions about this data?
I'm noticing that it's coming down, but it's still higher than the Middlesex League average.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's concerning. Good that it's coming down, but it's as high as it is.
Yeah, Michaela.
Yeah, what I notice is that the frequency of bullying online is higher than the frequency of bullying in school, and I think that's really telling about how yes, like the social media has like increased communication, and it's benefited communication. Like we can talk to people from all around the world. Yet they're, it's like people are too scared to confront people in person, and so they resort to their screens and social media to do all that. So I think that's really telling of social media in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. Any other? And then you'll see in that red box, it says Black students and students of another race were significantly more likely than the average high school student to experience discrimination because of their race and ethnicity. Actually, and that's for both Wakefield High School and Galvin. Any thoughts on that, or is that something people have witnessed or heard?
Just one thing, and then I have to actually sneak. I have a professional development training that I'm supposed to be at, but one of the things, speaking as a teacher, I know that this is like the YRBS results are presented out to us usually every year, at least at the Galvin, and I would assume the same at the high school. And it's always like one of the worst meetings that I have to sit through, because it's, even when it's good and it's going down, that it still to me is like,
Yeah.
some of my kids are experiencing this, even if it's only 5 of them, it's still 5 kids that are experiencing that. And that to me is like heartbreaking. And I think, not to speak for all teachers, but I think something that would be really helpful when we look at this type of data, and it's been something really just great for me to be in these last couple of meetings with you guys, is to hear what you guys want or what you guys need. Because we have all of these different strategies that a lot of times the adults have come up with, or the experts have come up with, but it's really helpful to hear what you guys, as the people that are in our classrooms and in our schools experiencing these things daily more than than we are. It's helpful to know like what, because particularly the mental health and the violence, like those are things that I think like most of your teachers, or at least I would be committed to doing what is needed to support you guys. So I think, just as I think about like the council and what you guys, all of the great ideas you have of, providing some suggestions to the teachers of what types of supports would help you guys, and really all of these areas, because no teacher is gonna not be receptive to that. I just think a lot of times teachers don't know what to do, so their response is to do nothing, not in a negative way, but they don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, so they feel like their safer bet is to just like, we'll do World War II today, or we're gonna do the quadratic equation. But having like your input, I think would be really helpful for the teachers at the high school and the Galvin.
Yeah, and I think a major part of this is really like changing the norms about, and I think that we've made strong headway with this in recent years, as seen by the decrease in a lot of these. And I think that collecting like information from what students want to see, like through a survey, out to all the schools, and for people to really take this from what the students think would be the best ways to like change these norms and change like some of the like perceptions about how this is taken, to really find the best way for teachers and other adults and even students themselves to find a way to address this. Yeah, Madeline?
I completely agree. And I also think that this is something that the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee could work on, whether it be sending out something to students across the middle school and high school asking for suggestions, or doing social media posts and asking people generally from the community. I think that would be a good way for us to interact with people in general.
Awesome idea.
Yeah.
I also like the idea too, and this is why I'm so glad we have your position now too, is just, when students are thinking about their civic action projects too, is to kind of look at some of these data points, and these are things that impact them and their peers, and what could some projects be around these topics.
100%. I think that would be something, as we get closer, would be great to even have some of you guys maybe even talk to particularly the 8th graders, because I know you do it again in 10th or 11th grade. You do the civic action project.
I think it's junior year.
Junior year.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times it might be easier for an 11th grader to pick a topic or to have something they're passionate about, where I know my experience with the 8th graders that it's difficult to pick topics. So even to have your guys' support to give them ideas or share some of the things you guys are working on, and then they can help support your work, would be great.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. All right, we're moving along. We do have some dating violence statistics there, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Galvin, violence and bullying, and this again, the chart on the right is in school bullying versus electronic bullying broken down by gender, gender identity, and LGBTQ and non-white students. So you can kind of see the impact. Actually, no, that doesn't have it. And then strategies to address school culture, bullying, and dating violence. So these are some of the strategies that have been implemented. But how great would it be in 2 years when we're presenting this again? And then we have a bunch of bullets that were students suggested that are being implemented. So those are some of it. High schoolers, if you know anyone, there's going to be a new bystander intervention and healthy relationships peer leadership group. That's for juniors and seniors. They can apply. Applications are open until the 25th. So those students are going to get the focus of that is around healthy relationships and bystander intervention. A couple other trends of interests, especially some of the things that you all are interested in these topics. Sleep time. Take a look at that chart. So Galvin versus the rest of the Middlesex League and the high school versus the rest of the Middlesex League. What do you notice?
I'll start. I noticed that the high school is definitely getting less sleep, and I think that's because of like I feel like there's so much more commitment that you have in high school. You're sort of becoming more independent. And I think I think what people fail to think about is their sleep and their healthy habits. Like, yes, you have schoolwork, you have sports, you have music, you have all of these other activities, but you have to also account for some self-care.
To add on what Michaela said, I agree. It's definitely hard, even myself, to like find a balance between school and clubs and sports and meetings and like all these things and work too. It's a lot on plate, and I feel like also procrastination is like a big thing in high school. So like the sleep time is like decreasing because of that, and I wish there was a way we could almost talk to like, you know how they said the 30-minute rule, I think it is for homework now. But I feel like sometimes teachers don't account like how long it takes someone to study for an exam or an assessment. So I wish there was something we could do. Maybe talking to the youth action team about it. If they have like any, I don't know if they talk to any teachers or anything. Yeah.
Olivia?
I was just gonna say that like for high school, considering it's a lot lower, like even for the Middlesex League average, I think it's mainly because there are so many opportunities opened up for high schoolers versus middle schoolers. Like I know, especially in the winter, I have 6 things going on at once. It's hard to keep track of everything while still doing homework for 7 classes, along with working and everything else. That sleep is just like that is more important in the sense of like I have to get everything done for like my point of view. And I think that's how a lot of high schoolers think, that like studying and homework has to be a priority, that just sleep gets forgotten about, like how Maya said.
And Michaela?
Yeah, going back to what Maya said about the 30-minute rule about homework. I don't think I think also teachers do not take into account those with learning disabilities. It takes a lot more time for them to get stuff done because their brains are different. Their brains work differently. And it's not like set to the neurotypical brain. So I think more teachers need to take into account, their neurodivergent students, and think about what can help them.
Yeah, Madeline.
That's actually very similar to something that I was thinking, and something that I talked with my liaison about at my recent meeting about the Commission on Disability. Is I know, like, personally, I have doctor's appointments anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week, and balancing that with all of those additional things can be like, I think that there are a lot of things that aren't taken into account, whether it be different disabilities or other things that people might just have going on at home, in addition to this kind of societal pressure on doing as much as possible in high school and always being super overscheduled, and you have to be a part of 10 different clubs and a bunch of different teams, and sports in this town are very, very intense. And I think that there's a lot of, like, at the end of the day, like, you have to have time to relax if you want, like, and then to go to bed. And I think that sleeping is just not, it kind of gets put at the bottom of priorities. And after you do all things that you have to do, like it's kind of like an afterthought for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Can I make two comments? So, exactly what you're saying. What's interesting, do you all remember having the Swiss students here the last? So, the youth action team was talking about how they're focused on school start times. And if you take a look at that, we're much below the rest of the Middlesex League who have made their school start times later. So that's an interesting data point to look at. Now that we're one of the only two schools in the Middlesex League. But the other thing the Swiss students were saying was that they could not believe kind of that culture piece that you're talking about, how busy high school students are here in this country and how there's so much focus on sports and extracurriculars and all these, like all the things that Liv was talking about, and jobs and then the trying to get into college thing. So that was, I think it's definitely a unique cultural piece. We do have a big agenda, so I do want to move on.
I just wanted to say quickly, and I really liked what you said about that, Madeline, especially with what everyone else said too, because I feel like it is a lot of like societal pressure on people. It's almost like a glorification of having like the most rigorous schedule possible. And I feel like what's always on the chopping block first is free time and then sleep time. And people need to take into account that balance doesn't come from nowhere, and that there has to be more of a shift in the culture to actually make that change more sustainable.
So the last piece on that is that if you see the screen time is really high, and 3 or more hours non-school work time is spent. And actually Officer Malone was saying he looks, sometimes kids show him their phones and he sees the hours on screen on their phones sometimes can be 12 hours a day. So that's a lot of time. So there's that strong correlation that these evaluators found with the Wakefield data between depression, sleep, and screen time. So it's something that you all can think about when you're thinking about what are our important policy things that we want to advocate for when we're thinking about the health and wellness of our peers or your peers. And then the last piece is a bit of positive news. Like Mr. Collins said, this can all be challenging to listen to, but there's a connection. School connectedness is increasing for students in Wakefield. So the number of students who recognize a trusted adult in their school has gone up significantly at both the Galvin and the high school. So that is a bit of good news, but it's different for different students. So we break that down in the right-hand column. And that's about it. All right.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine. I feel like the discussions that we've had today are really important to the youth of our town. And I think that we have a lot of strong takeaways between looking into more how to change that school culture to make it more conducive for students to do better through that survey too that we talked about with Mr. Collins, to gain more input from students on how to do that to create a better school environment, and connecting it to our liaisons and also the youth action team as well to pursue other work with that, such as with the health department and with the Commission on Disabilities and stuff like that. So I feel like that's all really important, and we'll definitely continue to discuss this with the various other proposals that we do in the future. So does anyone have anything else that they would like to say on this before we move on? Okay. So the next item on our agenda today is the grant application for the Culture Council has been submitted, and we are running a Wakefield intergenerational community
If we
tree.
get the grant.
Yes, if we get the grant, yes, that's the big if. So hopefully, but Vanessa's application that she worked on with you, Catherine, was very strong written, and I think that the entire project seems to be a great way to bring together the seniors and the youth of our town. So I just wanted to read the project overview that was written. So it goes, this multi-generational art project is designed to bring senior citizens and students together to create a mural to be displayed in public spaces throughout Wakefield. The event would take place at the Wakefield Council on Aging on an early release Wednesday. This event would allow Wakefield residents from all ages to discuss current events and stories. Each individual, senior and youth, would decorate a 5-inch paper circle with full creative liberty, answering the prompt, "What do you like about living in Wakefield?" We would provide supplies to decorate them. Afterwards, a youth artist would photograph each circle, take the photos to a design program, and format it into a tree with the circles as leaves. From there, we would print the design onto a retractable banner that would be placed around town buildings such as Senior Center, Library, Town Hall, and High School. So altogether, this project seems like a great way to really bridge different aspects of our community together in a really positive way and allow us to take more information from different parts of the town, especially the youth and senior populations of our town. So would anyone else like to say anything on this?
No, but thanks to all of you for
Yeah.
the great discussion last time. That helped. Vanessa took notes and that helped her create the proposal. So you guys, these discussions lead to action. So the more that everyone speaks up, the better the products are. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, everybody. So next on the agenda is the Youth Council Finance Working Group update. So Vanessa was not able to be here, unfortunately, but I did reach out to her and she said that she is setting up getting the working group started to with fiscal year 2025 budget season in mind. So that doodle poll will probably coming out early November. So we do want to get an updated headcount as to who was interested in it. So I believe at the last meeting, it was myself, Vanessa, Ahmed, Thomas, and Madeline. So did anyone else say that they were interested in being part of the budget working group as to fiscal year 25? Anybody? Yeah. All right, thank you, everybody. So next on the agenda is, so I have a presentation that I've prepared for everybody based on my recent meeting with Town Administrator Steve Mayo on my liaison to the Town Council and Town Administrator. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
So excited.
Just one second, I need to pull this up. All right. So yeah, so this is my presentation on the Town Council and Town Administrator. So just to give an overview of the Town Council, the Town Council is an organization of 7 elected members that represent the entire town, and they have the executive authority of the town vested in them. So go back to like 8th grade civics, that would be the executive branch of Wakefield, and thinking of the legislative branch, that would be open town meeting, which is the general population of Wakefield. So they are the chief executive office of the town, and their chief priority is policy making. So that translates into passing and enforcing the laws, ordinances, and policy change that the town is responsible for. So they have the authority to make appointments to many different municipal boards, including the Youth Council, and to grant licenses as well. So the Town Council is the one that appoints the town administrator, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Council on Aging, and more of that. And the current leadership of the Town Council is Jonathan Shines as chair and Michael McLean as vice chair. And Julie Smith Galvin, who is also part of the Town Council, is our liaison. So to overview the position of town administrator, the town administrator is appointed by the town council to act as the chief administrative officer of the town and is responsible to the town council for the proper operation of many town affairs. So he supervises the town boards under his administration and is responsible for the implementation and management of all policies, programs, and procedures that have been implemented by the council and by town meeting. So the town administrator also works on budget preparation and implementation, hiring different personnel and negotiating labor contracts. So that's like that falls under a lot of different things fall under the town administrator's job. So that's definitely an important part of how the town functions. And the current town administrator is Steve Mayo, and that's who I met with on October 12th. During our meeting, we established a great open line of communication, which is what we'd like everyone to achieve with their liaison roles to allow back and forth information flow between both our body and his office, and to allow greater cooperation, mutual understanding of each other's goals and priorities for this term. And something that we took away from this was, and I'm going to get into the specific points that we discussed, that a lot of the points that they've been working towards, they've been trying to match with the budget priorities as part of the town's budgeting process. So the different discussions that we had during this meeting were we focused on a lot about walkability throughout the town. That's something that the town has been focusing on recently, as seen with the bike lanes on North Ave that they've been implementing in different parts of the town envision process. With that, another thing that we discussed was allotting budget money for the addressing of mental health, housing, substance abuse, rising loneliness in residents. And I think that connects to the youth risk behavior survey that we just discussed. This is not just a youth issue, but an entire town-wide issue. And they've been focusing a lot on that to tackle that. And working towards Wakefield's energy efficiency has also been a major point that they've been working on as well, allocating parts of their budget to work towards a more energy independent Wakefield. And a lot of the policies that they've been working on are going to be voted at town meeting on November 18th. So that's when these some of these policies will be approved. So to connect what we discussed with the youth council, to focus on mental health, we've done a lot of work with mental health in the past, and as we've discussed today, we would like to do a lot with it in the future as well. We had a mental health subcommittee actually during the inaugural youth council, and we've worked with the youth action team to further their proposal for later school start times, which ties back into mental health, and in using the youth risk behavior survey results, our major point to currently help students' mental health throughout Wakefield. Greener energy is a topic that I've heard from many youth in the town are interested in, and even just greener solutions in general, as seen by our public commenters today. Many youth in the town are eager to see these solutions in response to the evolving climate situation across the globe, and energy efficiency is an important step in the right direction. So it's great to see the town pursuing this. And the youth council's work with Safe Routes to School was another thing that we discussed, making sure that that reduction on car dependence as Wakefield's reputation as a commuter town is something that goes into this, and reducing car reliance in the town by opening up different walkability paths and bike and just general non-car transportation methods, and even public transportation is really important. And we also discussed civic engagement across the town, like as we've discussed with Mr. Collins as our civic engagement coordinator now, engaging the youth to be more interested in government. And it goes just beyond voting, like that we've discussed, but really taking an interest in the community to become a more involved and more interested person in the community and be a part of government, because that reflects better on government in general, and it makes the government more receptive to the issues that we face as youth. And we also talked briefly about the job situation in Wakefield and what it kind of means for the town. So why aren't and it's more nuanced subject with this. We talked about why some businesses in the town have been struggling with hiring and what it means in general, what the town and what's causing it. And we kind of related it to a lot of different things, like perhaps, and it's not necessarily straightforward. It's more of a combination of a lot of different factors that perhaps are from post-COVID, but we discussed that as well. And so I'm going to share this presentation with everyone after if they would like to see further resources I'm just going to go back to this slide. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to say or discuss from this? Yeah. Yeah, Counselor Smith Galvin, would you like to say anything on this?
I think you did an excellent job. And I really like the way that you kind of connect the things that we're talking about to the things that you're interested in, which of course is the whole purpose of your youth council. So I guess I would just say, there are a lot of things happening on November 18th, including voting on the bike pedestrian plan. And I'll be presenting a proposal that the town perform a town-wide climate action plan, which we don't have and a lot of communities do have. And so on any of these issues or any other things that you ever see on the town council agenda, youth voices are really important, and you can come and speak in public participation just like your colleagues, did for your meeting. So if you have interest in anything that you see on the agenda, please, you can write us, you can do public participation in writing, or you can come by Zoom or in person to the very studio that you're in and share with you why it's important to you and your peers. So, and Catherine, I'm happy to kind of like give other updates or stuff kind of on a more regular basis if needed. So. Would you like that?
Yeah, definitely. We would really appreciate that. And I personally talked with Steve Mayo, and I with town meeting in mind, and I do plan on going to town meeting as well to be a part of that process, even though I can't vote yet. And I'm going to review the warrant and that. And maybe perhaps
we have stretch code on the town meeting, which is directly related to climate.
Yeah.
We're going to try to adopt a specialized stretch code so that new buildings in the town would either have to go all electric, or if they did use a fossil fuel path, they'd have to use solar and wire in a certain way. So anyway, it's there's going to be a lot. And even if you're not 18, please come to town meeting and you will be allowed to speak.
Oh, that's good to know. So you can speak even if
all you have to do is let the moderator know. And essentially what has to happen is the body has to allow you to speak, but they almost always vote. We've had cases, you guys may or may not know that our plastic bag bylaw in Wakefield was put forth by a 10th grader. She worked with Counselor Mullen, our lawyer, and wrote up a warrant, and she presented it to town meeting. Didn't get through the first time. It was sent to a working group, but it got through the second time, and it's since been improved and expanded. So that really started with a youth initiative, and all you have to do is say, I would like to speak. And the moderator says, does the body allow somebody who's, not a registered voter in Wakefield to speak? And they generally say yes, because they want to hear your voices too.
And I think that's definitely an important thing for all of us to consider. And I'm definitely considering it after this discussion and from before. So I think that that's really important for everyone to keep in mind with different issues that they're interested in and that we want to pursue as the council. And generally with the town council, and based on the presentation and my discussion with Steve Mayo, there are a lot of parallels between what the youth council has been doing and what the town has been doing. So there's a lot of common ground for us to work together with walkability, with energy, with mental health. So I feel like with that, there's a lot of places that we can pursue with the town council on this. So
sorry to interrupt you, maybe just two more things. So tonight there's a public hearing on nicotine-free generation at the Galvin Middle School at 6:30. So that is not a town council policy. It would be a Board of Health policy. And Catherine, maybe you can fill them in on more, but there's going to be an open meeting tonight about whether nicotine. Brookline has passed a bylaw that says people born after a certain day, a year, can never buy nicotine in the town of Brookline. And so we're looking at whether that policy would work from here. So essentially what it would do is not take away buying nicotine from anybody who can do it right now. So anybody 21 and over could buy it, but anybody, whatever date would be set by the town, born after that date, would not be able to buy nicotine. So there's that tonight, and town meeting is November 18th for anybody who doesn't know. I think it's a Saturday one, 9 a.m. at the Galvin.
Yeah, that's definitely great to consider. Yeah, I think that that's really important. The nicotine-free generation. I think that that's something that we should definitely continue to keep our eyes on. So
yeah, you guys are the ones living it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say on this? All right. Thank you all for listening to my presentation, and thank you very much, Councillor Smith Galvin, for your insights as to this. So it's much appreciated. Thank you. All right. So are there any other updates that anyone has from their liaisons? Yeah, Madeline.
So a couple days ago, I met via Zoom with my liaison from the Commission on Disabilities, Lorna. And we had a really, really wonderful, productive conversation regarding how both the Youth Council and the Commission on Disabilities can benefit each other and support each other. A couple of specific things that we discussed. A new wheelchair accessible swing is being put in at the Walton, and they're hoping to make that the case for all of the elementary schools in town. And they are going to be looking at they really want to hear from youth in particular what accessibility issues we have found across Wakefield within the schools, different challenges that we faced, whether it be like the some of you may or may not know this, but the one of the elevators at the high school does not accommodate a wheelchair, things like that, that people may have run into. So that was like the majority of it. Just generally, they're very excited to work with us, and they're going to have a lot of projects coming down the line that they'll be looking for input on.
Yeah, I think that that's really great, Madeline. And I remember when I did the preparation for the town vote on the new high school project, and when I learned that for the first time from you regarding the elevators and how it's just almost surprising and kind of disheartening that certain people with that require accommodations don't have them in a lot of places. I think that they're looking for youth input is really important. So I recommend anyone who does have ideas on this suddenly reach out to Madeline as to this, so that way she can share this with her liaison positions.
The other thing that I want to say is that if you're thinking like, oh, I don't want to reach out because they probably know this, Lorna didn't even know about the elevators. So they really don't have much communication with youth at all. So anything, even if it seems like an obvious issue that everyone probably knows about, they probably don't. So
It's a really good point.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say, Madeline? Yeah, Erin.
Last Thursday, I met with Mr. Collins regarding the social studies at both the high school and the middle school, and more specifically, the civics projects. And we discussed how civics projects work, that we found out that it's pretty similar with the 8th graders and the 11th graders in the way that we do it. And overall, we established that once he gets ideas in from the 8th graders, and I can also convene with my friends who are 11th graders and doing the civics projects to find the issues that the youth of our town find to be prevalent in Wakefield, and then we will bring that up to the rest of Youth Council to see what we can support and what we can help with these.
Yeah, I think that that's really great in total, because a lot of smart legislation can come out of the civic action projects, and I think that providing that path forward into real policy change is really important. Thomas, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I met with Tom Mullen, who is the town council, council SEL, not CIL. It's a unfortunate naming, but we just discussed his role as the town lawyer. At the moment, he didn't really have any issues concerning youth. I asked him about the yonder pouches, but he said it hadn't really crossed his desk much. So there wasn't much specific things, but just generally we're gonna have a communication going forward, and if there's any issues, he'll bring it up.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, Nathaniel.
Yes, so I sat in for the environmental sustainability committee meeting. And yeah, they talked about the energy code for houses. They had someone come in and talk about that. So they also talked, they wanted me to do to maybe talk to the schools about the reinstating the recycling and composting programs at the school, which I thought, yeah, I could talk to the Galvin teachers, and then and then, yeah, I can get in touch with the high school too. So I think I will, talk to her more about that and yeah, we can communicate and figure out a plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, okay, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's really important, to look at these, possible solutions to a lot of the problems that we've been facing, especially with the recycling and composting, program. I think that that's something that we can definitely help you with, and the Environmental Sustainability Committee.
So I just want to remind our middle schoolers that Mr. Collins will be working with you on how to move your liaison. So if you want to touch base with him about like exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah.
Nathaniel, how to take those next steps, he's there to support our middle schoolers with your liaison
Okay.
relationships.
Yeah, William.
Just as an additional heads up, I am the captain for the recycling club at the high school, so
Okay.
I'd love to help in any way.
All right. Sounds great.
Perfect.
Yeah, that sounds great to have that, connection with the ESC, and the youth council and the recycling club, because it, all focuses on the same, general areas. So I think that's great to work together with that. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say? If they have any other updates or if they'd like to say anything on, what our members have talked about today? Yeah, Michaela.
I was gonna comment on Madeline's update from the Commission on Disabilities. I think it's really amazing that they're finally installing a wheelchair swing at Walton. And I hope this will expand across all parks around Wakefield. And I think that really connects to what we were talking about accessible playgrounds. There's still like so much work to be done, but like that is a great start. And if they wanna if they have any input, they'd love to talk. I'd love to reach out to them and talk to them about it. So yeah.
And I know Bill Renault, our town ADA compliance officer, reached out to Michaela, invited her. So hopefully Madeline and Michaela, you can go to their November meeting.
Yes, I am. He said that I'm welcome to the November meeting. They're doing a self-assessment on all of the playgrounds in Wakefields about for accessibility. So I hope that in November, like we could talk about this and really talk about like moving forward how we can improve our playgrounds in Wakefield so that they're accessible for everyone. But that is a great start, and I'm so happy to hear about that.
And I'm very happy to hear that too. I think that that's such an important thing that I'm really happy that you brought that to our attention during the last meeting. And I'm happy that you told us about how they're moving forward with that too. So I think that that's great. So is there anything else that anyone would like to say?
I think I can help that too because I'm related to the rec department. So maybe I can like talk to them and like see what we can do with putting accessible rides and like things in playgrounds.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the next item on our agenda is the Snow Angels shoveling program. So at our last meeting, we discussed potentially having someone new take over the program, as Juliana's done a lot of work with this in the past and has been doing the bike ballet. So to take something off her plate to help with that. And so I haven't heard from anyone regarding the Snow Angels program. So we would be starting this relatively soon with the winter weather coming in to market this out and promote it. So does anyone have any interest in potentially heading the, yeah, Juliana?
I would still be open to
Okay,
leading the Snow Angels
well,
program.
that sounds great, yeah.
Thank you. We have the senior resource fair next Wednesday, Juliana, and we're gonna have a special section there for seniors to sign up for the Snow Angels program and a little more clear guidelines on who should be taking advantage of the Snow Angels. So
Okay.
thank
Is
you,
Vanessa
Juliana.
still the Council on Aging liaison?
James.
James.
So you could
Okay.
work with James on that.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I know that at our last meeting, we talked a little bit about having like potentially like a buddy system, people doing it in pairs to make the work go by faster and also to prevent kind of the confusion that can happen when someone is unavailable to do their shoveling. So I think that that's great things moving forward. and making sure that everything is updated and ready to go for when we do start marketing soon. And definitely, if you need any help, and I'm actually please involve me with the planning of it, because I definitely want to provide any help that I can to you guys with the planning part of it. So
Thank you, Ellie.
does anyone have anything else they'd like to say on Snow Angels? So next on our agenda is the Veterans Day Cleanup Partnership event. So I was in contact with Maggie Schaffer, who runs the Warrior Cleanup Crew, and unfortunately, the Warrior Cleanup Crew will be unable to provide us with logistical support for the project, and will only be able to help us with spreading it through their network of volunteers. So with that in mind, and with all the projects that we've been currently doing, and just how Veterans Day falls this year, which is on a Saturday this year, and given that the low turnout that we had last year, due to in part it being on a long weekend, and just the general way that it was carried out, we are looking not to have the cleanup this year due to just the logistical issues. But I did want to bring up different ways that we can still honor the veterans of our community in a different way. So I think that that's something important, because the main point of the Veterans Day cleanup is to find a way to bring the community together to honor veterans. And even if it's not in an in-person way, still a way that we can work together to honor the veterans of our town.
I could ask the veterans officer to come to the next meeting and give some suggestions on ways you could honor veterans if you'd like.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I'd love that.
So we don't have a liaison this year, but I can do that. Emailing him right now.
Yeah, and I think because with this program, it has really succeeded when it was in the middle of the week. And when we partnered with like the science teachers to give extra credit, I know that was really helpful. But definitely still finding ways to support the veterans of our community, as we've done in the past, is really important. So does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say on this? All right. So, next on the agenda is the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee update. So I know Madeline has a couple updates for us regarding how things have been going.
Yeah, so some of you may have seen that I sent out an email Sunday morning regarding the Meet the Members posts. I think I've received 3 responses so far, and there's no like huge rush on it, but if you guys could just get those in as quickly as possible so we can start getting those up. It just asks a couple questions like grade, fact about yourself, why you joined the youth council, and just a picture of yourself so that people can get a general idea of who is a part of the youth council and what we do and stuff like that. When was our last meeting? It was a little bit ago.
It
So
was
we
actually it was
haven't,
the week before, so I think probably the first week of October.
yeah. So it's been a little bit since we've met. I think that's like the main thing that we're working on and missing.
I don't think so. I think
I think
that,
that's about
and I think
it.
just taking forward what we've talked about today,
Yeah.
and applying it to the different social media and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's good. Yeah, and did anyone not receive Madeline's email about the Meet the Members?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah. So
Need an updated list.
I was gonna say I sent them out using a list of names as opposed to like I don't have a group thing
I can
yet.
share a
So
group with you.
okay, thank you. Did anyone else not get
I don't
it?
think I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
no, it's fine. So yeah, just making sure that we all fill that out sooner rather than later to make sure that we can get that up in a timely manner. And I also included it the link to it in my last general council update email. So if anyone's missing that, I also put it there. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say as to the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee? All right, so for announcements, I just wanted to provide a quick update that I think that Vanessa is still waiting on information from Sherry Oaken on the training active bystanders training that we would potentially be doing. And I don't think I have any other announcements. And I think Councilor Smith Galvin, I think that you've do you have anything else for us? Because I think that
No, I said my piece. Thank you.
yeah. So does anyone have any other general announcements that they'd like to make to the council?
This isn't really like an announcement, but I have been brainstorming more ideas on accessible playgrounds. Let me just pull up the document real quick. I did research some playground companies that specialize in accessible playground equipment. What did I also do? I also had an idea of having like a separate quiet space in close proximity to the playground for those who can be like overstimulated at times. So there can be like benches and tables and small sensory equipment that doesn't make too much noise. So like tunnels or like interactive play panels or like balance beams, so that they still have a safe space to play without being in such an overstimulating environment. But yeah, that's it. That's brainstormed a lot more. I know that Catherine and I we emailed Bill from the Disability Commission about meeting, which we already talked about. Be meeting at their November meeting, so I'm really excited for that. And yeah, it's basically a quick update about my research so far.
Yeah, thank you, Michaela. That all sounds great. Does anyone else have anything? All right, so with that, for our next meeting date, the next half day is on November 8th. So the 2-week thing kind of gets a little bit blurred because of how just because of how Thanksgiving falls. It kind of like pushes the half day schedule a little bit off. So there are 2 weeks in between. So we would end up having, yeah, so not to have a virtual meeting in between that, or would you like to have?
I think people have a lot of work to do with
Yeah,
their liaison,
Yeah,
so
I think that gives us enough time to do a lot of independent work with everything that we've discussed and then come back November 8th strong. So
does that sound good to people?
and that would be another half day meeting at WCAT. So
I like these meetings.
yeah, I agree. I feel like we get a lot more work done here, a lot more conducive to our discussions. So does anyone have anything else that they'd like to discuss before we adjourn? All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I'm gonna call down the roll. James.
Yeah.
Nathaniel.
Yes.
Annabeth.
Okay.
Myself, yes. Thomas.
Yes.
William.
Yes.
Michaela.
Yes.
Madeline.
Yes.
Maya.
Yes.
Sophia.
Yes.
Juliana.
Yes.
Olivia.
Yes.
All right, so we have adjourned. Thank you everyone for the great discussions that we've had today. I really appreciate it. And I think that we're gonna come back strong on November 8th with all the discussions that we've had. And definitely I'll be staying in touch with everyone about all the stuff that we've been talking about. And please reach out to me with any questions that anyone you have. Thank you.
And there's more pizza in the conference room. So. Thanks so much.
Next time I'll be there in person. Thanks. Bye, everybody.